Kamala Harris, the former vice president, is doing the media rounds. She is speaking her truth. There are some folks who think that what she's doing is, quite honestly, I'll say, is committing political unaliving. Political suicide is what they say she's doing. I'll play a little bit of it. This is her on Good Morning America, a little bit of that. But I think the most interesting parts and her most interesting comments and a little bit more intimate and personal came from her appearance with Rachel Maddow on MSNBC. But here's a little bit of Good Morning America.
We're joined now by former Vice President Kamala Harris, who has a new book out called 107 Days. That's a nearly day-by-day account of her run for president and a 2024 campaign. Vice President Harris, thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you, Michael. It's good to be with you.
Great to be with you. And we're just going to dive right into it because everyone seems to have their own theory. But why do you feel or believe that you lost the 2024 presidential election?
Well, I talk about a lot of the factors that I think contributed to the outcome. But the reason I wrote the book is, Michael, it really was an unprecedented election. You think about it. A sitting vice president running for re-election, 3.5 months before the election decides not to run. The sitting vice president then takes up the mantle, running against a former president of the United States who had been running for 10 years with 107 days to go. It's unprecedented. It was the closest presidential election in the 21st century. And as history writes about that election, I felt very strongly that I wanted to make sure my voice was present in how that election is discussed and covered. It's part of American history, and I wanted to make sure my voice would be a part of that.
So that's what she said last night, this morning on Good Morning America. Now, I want you to tell me how you guys feel about this, about what's happening, about what she said. I believe that people should always speak their truth, and I think you should do it as close to, if there are some things that I could change about anything, I don't have any regrets, is that I would have spoken up in the moment about certain things while they were hot, rather than letting people create, writing the people who write the first draft usually writes the history, right? And the way the story is going to be framed. So I think it's important that she does this. Now, the way she does it, people are, not everyone is agreeing with it, the way she's doing it. Here's Kamala Harris on Jimmy Kimmel and the power of the people. She's speaking to Rachel Maddow.
Talk about the power being with the people and the people making that clear with their checkbooks as it relates to the suspension of Jimmy Kimmel. We saw the power of the people over the last few days, and it spoke volumes, and it moved a decision in the right direction.
So that was her speaking as I went to get more tea, and I just spilled it all over my leg. That was her speaking. And so she thinks that people have agency in this country, even though she's not the president, or it's not the way she hoped the election would come out, and even though people may be in despair. So I don't think there's anything really controversial about that. The one thing that they find that may be a little bit controversial is what she's saying about Pete Buttigieg here. Now, I really want you guys to weigh in, and maybe we should put up a poll on this one, okay? And then you guys can tell me later what the poll about Jimmy Kimmel says. But maybe we should put up a poll on this one. This is her speaking to why that she said she wanted to. Her first choice was Pete Buttigieg, but she said she was hesitant to do it, and she didn't do it for a certain reason. I'll let her explain. Here it is.
His reaction to that, since this part of the book has come out, if you've had any reflection on that, or I guess I'd ask you to just elaborate on that a little bit. It's hard to hear.
Yeah.
With you running as, you're the first woman elected vice president. You're a black woman and a South Asian woman elected to that high office, very nearly elected president. To say that he couldn't be on the ticket effectively because he was gay is hard to hear.
No. That's not what I said. That he couldn't be on the ticket because he is gay. My point, as I write in the book, is that I was clear that in 107 days, in one of the most hotly contested elections for president of the United States against someone like Donald Trump, who knows no floor, to be a black woman running for president of the United States and as a vice presidential running mate, a gay man, with the stakes being so high, it made me very sad, but I also realized it would be a real risk. No matter how, I've been an advocate and an ally of the LGBT community my entire life. So it wasn't about So it wasn't about any prejudice on my part, but
that
we had such a short period of time, and the stakes were so high. I think Pete is a phenomenal public servant. And I think America is and would be ready for that. But when I had to make that decision with 2 weeks to go, and maybe I was being too cautious, I'll let our friends, we should all talk about that. Maybe I was. But that's the decision I made, and I, as with everything else in the book, I'm being very candid about that.
Yeah.
With a great deal of sadness about also the fact that it might have been a risk.
Okay, so great. And I think you saw in that they're leaving the General Assembly at the UN. So I think we're done with that for now. Here's the thing. Okay, you guys won. This is going to be controversial, whatever, I'm sure. She's not wrong. She's gotten a lot of criticism for that. And I understand, even in our own meeting here, our editorial meeting, it's like she's contradicting herself. I don't believe she's contradicting herself at all. I think just as people now are saying about who should run in 2028, the first thing they say is, well, it's got to be a white dude. It's got to be a straight white guy. It's got to be like this. It's got to be that kind of thing. Now, that doesn't mean that people are bigoted, racist, or whatever. It just means that Democrats want to win. And so if you are put in a position like she's put in, I would understand in that compressed, unusual, very short time period, who is the best person that Donald Trump is not going to make a thing of? Because remember, I want people to remember, everyone looks back and go, oh, well, no. Remember the time that we were in? Remember what was happening with transgender people? Remember the most successful political ad in the history of the country? That's according to the reports, was that transgender ad. So he was already going in the MAGA folks on the transgender issue. And I'm a member of the LGBTQ community, and I get it. I also get it when people say, it can't be a Latino man, it can't be a black woman, it can't be a black man, it can't be like this time. I get it. It doesn't mean that they are prejudiced or racist, and I don't want to speak for her, but one of my friends, Jen Welch, and I talk about this all the time. I think we talked about it on the stage at the 92nd Street Y. And she says, as much as I hate to say this and admit it, it's got to be a certain kind of person that runs in 2028 if they want more of a guarantee that that person is going to win. Now, I don't believe that Jen Welch is not. And again, if I'm quoting her wrong, I apologize. Okay. But I feel the same way. You have to understand the moment. You have to read the room. And even as a person of color and a member of the LGBTQ community, I get it. There's so many purity tests in the Democratic Party. This has got to be this. This has got to be this. We always criticize even the Democrats now. Seniority here. We can't put AOC here. She's too far to the left. Jasmine Crockett is too young. That's what the people want. So everyone needs to read the room. And I think maybe Pete gets it. Here's a response from Pete Buttigieg.
Well, I was surprised when I read that. I just believe in giving Americans more credit than that. My experience in politics has been that the way that you earn trust with voters is based mostly on what they think you're going to do for their lives, not on categories. And I wouldn't have run for president if I didn't believe that. I was right here in Indiana when this state turned blue for the first time since LBJ, and it wasn't Bill Clinton who did it. It wasn't John Kerry who did it. That happened in 2008 when Barack Obama was leading the ticket. And just again and again, my personal experience getting reelected in South Bend and a lot of other things have just shown me that you just have to go to voters with what you think you can do for them. And that's why I'm here in Indiana right now. We did this big rally on redistricting, trying to make sure that we can make the case for a politics that's about the results we can get for people and not about all these other things.
Okay, he's not wrong too, and much of what he said. Yes, would I vote for Pete? Yep, sure would. Do I think he's qualified to be vice president or president? Yep, I do. But I also live in the real world. Now, where he said, I have to give the American people more credit than that, I understand what you're saying, but these are the people who voted for the person who pardoned insurrectionists. These are the people who voted for Americans, voted for the person who is a convicted felon. So while I would love to give my fellow American people more credit than that, it is the choir who will probably vote for you. But in order to win, you also need some converts. And I don't mean some people from the right. And even with that, you have to understand, as I say, read the room, the time that we're in, how they're going to use it. It writes itself. Transgender in sports, men competing with sports. You saw the thing with Piers Morgan, men beating up women, even though it was a woman, right? Men beating up women in the thing and men beating women in sports, and now they want the LGBTQ agenda to be in charge of our country. That's tough as a gay person to admit, but it's right. That's what's going to happen when you're in a contest like that. So will there be a time? Yeah, maybe the time is 2028, but between now and 2028, things could change. Things could change. But I mean, you guys, you're free to disagree with me. You're free to tell me that I'm wrong. I'm just saying, if Gavin Newsom, well, that's a whole different story. If Kamala Harris called me and said, Don, I'd like you to be on the ticket with me, I would have to say, I am very flattered. I'm honored. I just don't think right now is the right time. I'm just saying. Now, if Gavin Newsom runs and he decides and, that should be a gay man, then good for them. I will vote for them because I'm on the side of democracy. I will not vote for a MAGA person ever, ever, ever. And I'm not a Democrat and I'm not a Republican, ever. I will vote for whoever's on the side of democracy and not on some niche wedge issue. What I'm saying to you is that I'm not even going to vote next time on some issue that, because I could just vote on LGBTQ issues or black issues. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to vote for the person who is on the side of democracy, who believes more of the things that I believe in than less of the things that I believe in. There is nothing that I can relate to as it relates to MAGA at all. So they're out. So, yeah, I like Pete. As I said, I like him personally, professionally. I think he is really smart. But I also think we have to read the room. And some people may say, that's your internalized homophobia. Perhaps it is. And I think Kamala Harris is saying the same thing. Perhaps we can debate that, whether it was a mistake or not, if I was being too cautious. Yes, but that doesn't mean I am against Pete or against that. I'm just saying you gotta. And if I were in Kamala Harris's position, I probably would have made the same decision, which is weird because I'm a gay man, but I'm just saying. But if I were her, I would probably have made the same decision. I don't know if I would have gone with Tim Walz. That's a whole nother show. But I probably would have gone with some straight white guy. It would not be like Liz Cheney. I would not be going around the country campaigning with Liz Cheney. That's not what Democrats wanted. So That's all I'll have to say. And, you know, I probably would have, somewhat people are in the comments talking about Gaza. I probably would have, I wonder if anyone asked her about Gaza, because she did speak about Mamdani. Okay, but let's continue on now. So this is what she says regarding, let me see, Biden's recklessness and her response to it, or she didn't think that she had a good response. Here it is.
Jill's decision. We all said that like a mantra, as if we'd all been hypnotized. Was it grace or was it recklessness? In retrospect, I think it was recklessness. The stakes were simply too high. This wasn't a choice that should have been left to an individual's ego, an individual's ambition. It should have been more than a personal decision. Whose decision should that have been? How should that decision have been made?
So when I write this, it's because I realize that I have and had a certain responsibility that I should have followed through on. Which is, and so when I talk about the recklessness, as much as anything, I'm talking about myself. There was so much, as we know, at stake. And as I write, you know, the where my head was at the time is that it would come off as being completely self-serving.
If you said to President Biden that you did not think he should run again.
Yeah, or even that he should question whether it's a good idea. But I think that, you know, one of the reasons I wrote this book, Rachel, is there are actually a number of reasons. One is, that it is unprecedented, right? To your point of what you said in your opening, we had a president of the United States running for re-election, 3.5 months from the election, decides not to run. The sitting vice president enters the race against a former president of the United States who's been running for 10 years with 107 days to go. And it ended up being the closest presidential election in the 21st century. And there was so much about those 107 days that, for me, and this is really a behind-the-scenes look at those 107 days, was about seeing people who seemingly had nothing in common coming together by the thousands with a level of optimism and, dare I say, joy about the possibilities for America.
So her responsibility, she should have said something. It's probably, I mean, hindsight is 2020. Should she have probably said something? Yes. I think if she had distanced herself a little bit more from Biden, and I don't mean that in a disrespectful way, but when asked, is there anything that you would do differently? I think that I would have just said it then. So, but as much as, I mean, if she would have said, the choice really was Joe Biden and Jill Biden, because Joe is the only person that could say, I'm not running again. So no matter how much other people weighed in or whatever they thought, did it matter? Would they have taken into account? Maybe, but at the end of the day, it was their decision. So it doesn't matter how much Kamala Harris or anybody would hooping and hollering, this is a figure of speech, about, you know, he's not ready or whatever. If they had actually done that, it would have damaged Joe Biden. And I'm sure if they had confronted him, I'm sure it would have been leaked. Y'all know how this works. Everything is leaked. Everything is whatever. And if she had come out publicly, they'd be like, oh my God, she's disrespectful. And then she would have ended up damaging, and then Joe Biden lost, and then she would have been blamed for that as well. I mean, you guys feel me? You understand what I'm saying? So I don't know if there was, look, she was between a rock and a hard place as it relates to this, right? Rock and a hard place. Now, I mentioned Gaza. You know how Zohran Mamdani feels about, Zohran Mamdani is Muslim. He is running for mayor here. He has been tainted with a brush, and many say unfairly, that he is anti-Semitic. He vehemently denies that. His supporters deny that as well. And if you listen to his words, what he says, then you'll have to agree with him. But then some of the things also that he says are problematic to Jewish people. I'm not Jewish. I'm not going to speak for Jewish people. Just like I don't expect people to understand what may be insensitive or offensive to Black people. And if you don't walk in these shoes or in the skin, then don't tell me what's offensive and what should be not be offensive to me. So I cannot speak for Jewish people. But this is what she's saying about Zohran Mamdani.
What do you think of him and his candidacy? And what do you think of mainline Democratic shyness and agitation about the prospect that he's going to win?
Look, as far as I'm concerned, he's the Democratic nominee and he should be supported. Do
you endorse his candidacy?
I support the Democrat in the race, sure. But let me just say this. He's not the only star. I know that, he's in New York, and I know New Yorkers think they're the center of the world, and here we are in New York having this interview.
It is the biggest city in the country.
And I love New York, as the saying goes. I really do. But, I mean, there are people like Barbara Drummond in Mobile, Alabama.
Can you guys please get me, there's on social media, there's a Jewish guy that I spoke to this weekend. We were at Columbus Circle, and he's a rabbi. And he was just so eloquent in the way that he spoke about Zohran Mamdani. And he says, at first I was against him. He says, I'm a Reformed Jew. I'm a rabbi. I'm a Reformed. Did he say Reformed rabbi? Reformed? Yeah. And he said, at first I was against him. Then I met with him and I heard some of his ideas. And he said he's running to be mayor of New York City, not to be the mayor or not for foreign policy. And he says, once I understood that, then yeah, that's the guy. And if we can get that up, it would be great, because I think this guy really articulated it better than anyone that I've seen. And here's the thing. I think he articulated it better than anyone that I've seen because he is Jewish. And that's why I said, I'm not going to speak for my Jewish brothers and sisters about how you should feel about anyone. But I also think that everyone should have an open mind and everyone should remember what politics is about. Here's the rabbi.
I'm a rabbi.
You are.
And this is the Sabbath day. So we're out here on Shabbat demonstrating, because prayer only leads to action. And if it doesn't lead to action, prayer is useless.
Are you supposed to be you're breaking the Sabbath, right?
Orthodox would say I'm breaking the Sabbath. I'm liberal, I'm Reform. I believe that I'm honoring the Sabbath.
How do you feel about the prospects for mayor right now?
I actually met with a group of rabbis with Mamdani, and I was very impressed, and I thought he was very open. I have some problems with some of his Israel stances, but we're not electing somebody to stand up for foreign affairs. We're electing somebody to run the city and to do it in an honest way. I'm very disappointed in Mayor Adams, for whom I voted.
But you were impressed with Mamdani. Did he win you over?
I'm going to vote for him.
And you're a rabbi.
A Reform rabbi, yes.
Yeah. There are folks who are Jews who are not happy with him in this city, and I know.
Oh, I know that. In fact, I've been in touch with some of them, and actually I've had some very good conversations with some leadership. They pretty much came around to understand that why I would vote for Mamdani.
Did you convince them?
I don't know if I convinced them, but they came a long way.
There you go. And I think that guy, that's why I go out and talk to people, because if you just sit in your bubbles, you don't know. Okay. If you just sit in your bubbles, you don't know. Okay. Here she is on whether or not she's going to run for, here's the big question, run for president in 2028.
Will you consider running in 2028?
That's not my focus right now.
I know
it's not my focus at all.
I know
it really isn't.
I'm just going to.
Yeah.
Well, I know you're not considering it now, but are you saying, when you said you're not going to run for governor of California?
Correct.
Were you saying you are never going to run for anything ever again, or were you just saying I'm not going to run for that office right now?
That was the decision before me, and I made the decision not to run for governor of California. By the way, there are a lot of great candidates running, and I love my state, and we want somebody to definitely follow in the footsteps of Gavin in terms of standing up and understanding the power that California has to stand up to what we're saying in D.C.
As politic as you are being in those remarks, you are beautifully impolitic in this book.
True that, Rachel. Hey, do we have the one, because doesn't Gavin catch a stray in this?
Well, let me ask you on that gerrymandering front. The White House has been very aggressive, pushing Republican-led states to gerrymander their maps to effectively give Republicans a major edge heading into the midterms next year. That has led to related responsive Democratic efforts, including in your home state of California. Do you support Democrats' effort to kind of fight fire with fire there? Will you be involved in that California measure, for example?
I absolutely support it. You mentioned Gavin earlier. By the way, Gavin has a great sense of humor, so you know, he's going to be fine. But
did you warn him about the hiking thing? You did.
Yeah,
okay.
I've known Gavin forever. He literally has a great sense of humor. But let me say about what he is doing with redistricting, it is absolutely the right way to go. Part of what we've got to, I think, challenge ourselves to accept is that we tend to play by the rules. But I think this is a moment where you got to fight fire with fire. And so what Gavin is doing, what the California legislature is doing, what those who are supporting it are doing to say, you know what, you want to play? Then let's get in the field, let's get in the arena, and let's do this. And I support that.
So, I mean, she's saying that it was all Gavin will get it, that it was kind of meant, and I haven't read the book, so I don't know. But the way that it is portrayed in the media is like, oh, well, man, there's something, or, you know, maybe there's some issue with it. I have no idea. I don't know. So this is what David Axelrod is being reportedly has said here. David Axelrod catching strays 2 days in a row on the show. I don't mean, David, I love you. I'm just, you're out there, so I got to talk about it. This is from someone on Twitter called Christopher Cadalaggio. David Axelrod on Kamala Harris. He's a new memoir. If there's political strategy here, it's a bad one. There's an awful lot of grievances and finger pointing that really doesn't serve a political agenda. What do you think? Now, I've heard folks say that. Like, what is she doing? She should be standing up for the party. I think what she's doing is, and I know some folks will take offense to it, like, you know, the black woman can't say how she feels, everyone else does. And there is some truth to that. Is this necessary? No, David. But I think David and others who have been at this political game for quite a long time. I remember I met David Axelrod in Chicago years ago when Barack Obama, this is before he ran Barack Obama's campaign in 2008 or whatever he had, you know, whatever his role in that campaign was. But there was someone who was running for, it wasn't mayor, maybe it was mayor or like comptroller or something like that. And he told me once and then I remembered. But anyway, for a long time. And so, you know, David knows politics in a way that many people don't because of the Chicago's political machine, right? It's very political town machine. Mayor Daley, you know, Richard M. Daley, all the Daleys. So he knows all of that. He knows about politics. But I think folks are sick of that. And I think they want a change. And I think they want someone, you know, what she's doing is calling out her own party the same way Donald Trump calls out his own party. The same way Donald Trump calls out people who he believes have treated him wrong, or who don't support him. So if it's good for the Donald, why isn't it good for the Kamala? And I agree with her point. She said, look, this was a very important part of American history. And she does not want this part of American history to be told by others. She's telling it for herself. So I say, amen, Kamala Harris, you do you, and I'm on your side. People may not like it. It may not be good for the party, and perhaps what's not good for the party ends up being what's good for America. Because maybe it'll force the party to take a good long look at themselves. Maybe it'll force the people who ran Kamala Harris's campaign. This isn't Kamala Harris. I think they did a really bad job. And you know what I've always said, they ran her as if she was a white woman trying to appeal to black people. That's what like if she was Hillary Clinton or someone like that, she wasn't. And she's not. And so, David, I understand what you're saying, but we don't live in those times anymore. I'm not, as adept in political analysis as you are, but I can read the room and I can tell the country is ready for a change and they're over it. And they want someone like Kamala Harris who's going to say, yeah, you guys, let me tell you what you did. I almost said the F word here. My mom says, don't say the F word so much. You're too classy for that. I'm like, okay, Mom, you know what? You're fucking right. No, I'm kidding. So she's watching now. Now, wait a minute. I can hear her right now. So, yeah, I think they're ready for something else. And she's saying, look, this is what happened. But also what she's saying, listen to her. You guys have to listen to people. People love to like make snap judgments. When she said about Pete Buttigieg, she's saying, maybe I was wrong and let's discuss it, which is the right thing to say. Maybe I should have said something about Joe Biden, and I didn't. That's humility to me. That's owning something. I'm just saying. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Your support means the world to us. So make sure you hit the like button and you subscribe to our channel to make sure that you never, ever miss a video. We're live every day, 10 a.m. Eastern Time. We drop even more content at 2 p.m. Eastern and 5 p.m. Eastern. And if you want more Don Lemon Show content, we'd love for you to become a member of the Lemon community, where you will receive access to special community posts. You'll get exclusive content and members-only live shows. So head over to our channel page or click the join button on this video. Again, thank you for watching. We appreciate your love and your support, and we will see you next time.